1944 changes everything. The Dutton legacy is no longer just about land and cattle. It's about war, blood, and survival on two different battlefields. While the world burns overseas, the Yellowstone Ranch faces its most dangerous chapter yet. Old wounds resurface, new enemies rise, and the future of the Dutton name is put to the ultimate test. This is not just another prequel. This is the moment where the Yellowstone story hardens into Legend. 1944 opens on a Yellowstone ranch that no longer belongs to the young and reckless. Time has passed, and it shows in every fence post, every scar, and every decision made on this land. Spencer Dutton is no longer the wandering man we once knew. He is older now, heavier with memory and shaped by loss. The ranch under his control has grown stronger, larger, and more feared than ever before. But strength has come at a cost. The silence left behind by Alex's death still follows Spencer everywhere he goes. Her absence is not just emotional, it defines the man he has become. Spencer never remarried. Love, for him, became something dangerous, something that takes more than it gives. Instead, he shares his life with a widowed woman, not as a romantic escape, but as a partnership built on survival. Two broken people, helping each other stand upright in a world that refuses to slow down. Together, they raise a child on the ranch, a child taught early that this land does not forgive weakness. This child represents a future Spencer isn't sure he believes in, but one he prepares for anyway. As the ranch grows, so do the threats around it. Rival ranches circle like wolves, watching for any sign of decline. They know Spencer is older. They know the world is changing, and they are waiting for the moment Yellowstone shows weakness. But Spencer's rule is harsh, calculated, and unforgiving. He doesn't rule with kindness, he rules with certainty. Every decision is made with the knowledge that one mistake could end the Dutton legacy forever. At the same time, ghosts from the past return home. Elizabeth comes back to the ranch with her 21-year-old son, a young man raised without ever knowing the land his father died protecting. Curiosity pulls him toward Yellowstone, but what he finds is not the romantic idea of family. It's a world ruled by discipline, loyalty, and violence. His return shifts the balance of the ranch immediately. Bloodlines begin to overlap. Futures begin to clash. And questions that were buried after 1923 are forced back into the open. 1944 is also the year when boys become soldiers. Across the ocean, war is tearing the world apart, and Montana is not immune to its reach. Young men from the ranch are called away, including John Dutton II and Elizabeth's son. They leave behind unfinished arguments, unresolved rivalries, and a ranch that feels more fragile without them. While bullets fly overseas, tensions rise at home. Yellowstone becomes a place where every decision feels final, and every absence feels permanent. The ranch is no longer just fighting for land. It's fighting time itself. Spencer knows this may be the last era where the Duttons rule without question. The next generation is watching, learning, and waiting. And when war ends, they will return changed men who may not accept Spencer's vision for Yellowstone. 1944 is the calm before the storm. Because when the sons of Yellowstone come home, the real war for the ranch is only just beginning. War does not only change the men who fight it. It reshapes the land they leave behind. As 1944 moves forward, the Yellowstone Ranch begins to feel the pressure of absence. With John Dutton II and Elizabeth's son overseas, the ranch loses more than manpower. It loses balance. Every responsibility falls heavier on Spencer's shoulders, and age is no longer something he can ignore. His body carries the weight of old battles, but his mind carries something worse. The fear that the future of Yellowstone may slip out of his control before he is ready to let go. Back home, rival ranches grow bolder. They test boundaries, push cattle lines, and challenge long-standing agreements. These are not reckless men. They are patient ones waiting for Spencer to make a mistake. They sense division inside the Dutton family, and they know division is the fastest way to destroy a legacy. Spencer responds the only way he knows how, with force, intimidation, and absolute authority. But this time, the consequences are heavier. Every violent choice creates another enemy, and Montana is running out of space to hide bodies. Inside the ranch, tension grows quietly. Spencer's child and Elizabeth's son were raised very differently, yet they share the same land and the same future. One was shaped by discipline and survival, the other by loss and unanswered questions. Though they are not yet fighting openly, the rivalry is unavoidable. Each believes the ranch belongs to him in some way. Each believes his blood gives him a claim. And even in their absence, the The seeds of conflict are already planted. Then tragedy strikes Yellowstone once again. Elizabeth becomes a target. Whether by accident or intent, rival ranchers cross a line that cannot be uncrossed. Her death sends shockwaves through the Dutton family and beyond. This is not just another loss, it is a declaration of war. Spencer is pushed beyond reason. The careful, controlled leader disappears, replaced by the man he once was. Ruthless, direct, and unafraid of consequences. Montana feels the impact of that shift immediately. News of Elizabeth's death eventually reaches the battlefield overseas. For her son, the war is no longer about countries or uniforms, it becomes personal. Anger hardens him. Grief sharpens his instincts. When he finally returns home, he is no longer a boy curious about his father's land. He is a man fueled by revenge, and Yellowstone becomes the place where that rage needs to be answered. As soldiers return from war, Yellowstone changes overnight. The peace Spencer tried to preserve collapses under the weight of unresolved pain. Old alliances break. Family loyalty is tested. The question of succession can no longer be avoided. Who will inherit Yellowstone? Who is strong enough to protect it in a world that no longer respects tradition? 1944 is not just about survival. It's about transformation. The war overseas ends, but the war at home is just beginning. And as brothers stand on opposite sides of the same legacy, one truth becomes clear. Yellowstone will only belong to the one willing to do whatever it takes to claim it. When the war ends, Montana does not celebrate the way the rest of the world does. Victory feels distant on the Yellowstone ranch, muted by loss and unresolved anger. The men who return home are not heroes looking for peace. They are survivors carrying scars that refuse to fade. John Dutton too comes back hardened, disciplined, and quiet. Elizabeth's son returns burning with grief and unanswered questions. They step onto the same land, but they see two very different futures waiting for them. Spencer watches them closely. He knows the moment he has feared his entire life has arrived. The ranch can no longer exist under one man's shadow. The next generation is here, and they are strong enough to challenge everything he built. Spencer does not guide them with words. He tests them. He puts them in situations where loyalty matters more than blood, where hesitation can cost lives, and where mercy is treated as weakness. This is how Yellowstone has always chosen its leaders, not by birth, but by endurance. At the same time, the land itself is under attack. The Rainwater family begins to rise quietly but firmly. Tiana Rainwater's children are no longer willing to wait for justice. They push to reclaim land taken from their people, using strategy instead of violence, but backed by an unbreakable sense of purpose. Their movement forces the Duttons to face a truth they have avoided for generations. Yellowstone was built on survival, but survival came at a cost to others. For the first time, the Duttons must decide whether power is worth endless war. John Dutton too understands this shift better than anyone. He sees the future coming, a future where brute force alone will not protect the ranch. Elizabeth's son, however, believes the past holds the answers. To him, revenge is justice, and justice must be taken, not negotiated. Their conflict grows more dangerous with every decision. Spencer knows only one of them can lead Yellowstone forward. The other will tear it apart. The final breaking point comes when rival ranches make one last move, believing the Duttons are too divided to respond. They are wrong. What follows is brutal and final. Alliances are chosen. Lines are crossed. And by the end, Yellowstone stands bloodied but unbroken. The cost is devastating, but the outcome is clear. Spencer's era ends not with peace, but with certainty. John Dutton too emerges as the one capable of carrying the weight of Yellowstone into the future. Not because he is the strongest, but because he understands the cost of leadership. He has seen war. He has seen loss. And he knows what must be sacrificed to protect the land. 1944 does not close a chapter. It forges the foundation of everything that comes next. The Yellowstone we know is born here in fire, blood, and impossible choices. And once the dust settles, one truth remains. The land does not care who owns it. Only who is willing to bleed for it. By the time 1944 reaches its final stretch, the Yellowstone Ranch is no longer just a place of power. It is a place of consequence. Every decision made by the Duttons has left a mark, and the land is ready to collect what it is owed. Spencer feels this more than anyone. His body is weaker now, but his presence is heavier than ever. He walks the ranch knowing his time is limited, not by death alone, but by relevance. The world is changing, and Yellowstone must change with it or be destroyed by it. John Dutton too begins to step fully into his role, but leadership does not come with celebration. It comes with isolation. Every choice he makes pushes someone else away. He learns quickly that protecting Yellowstone means becoming comfortable with being hated. Unlike Spencer, John understands that fear alone will not be enough in the future. The enemies surrounding the ranch are smarter now: politicians, developers, and men who fight with contracts instead of guns. This realization sets John apart. He is not just defending land. He is preparing for a war that has not yet announced itself. Elizabeth's son struggles to accept this new reality. He believes the ranch owes him something. For his mother, for his father, for the life he never had. His anger no longer has a clear target, and that makes him dangerous. The bond between him and John Dutton too fractures completely. What was once rivalry becomes resentment. Spencer watches this unfold with quiet regret, knowing he helped create this outcome by raising men in a world where softness was never allowed. Meanwhile, the Rainwaters continue their quiet resistance. Their fight is no longer symbolic, it is organized, focused, and patient. They understand that time is their greatest weapon. While the Duttons fight to hold what they have, the Rainwaters fight to reclaim what was taken. Their presence forces John Dutton too to think beyond tradition. For the first time, a Dutton considers that survival might require cooperation instead of domination. As tensions reach their peak, Spencer makes his final contribution to Yellowstone. Not through violence, but through acceptance. He steps back, allowing John to lead fully, knowing the ranch must belong to the future, not the past. This moment is not dramatic or loud. It is quiet, heavy, and final. A man who lived his entire life fighting finally chooses to let go. 1944 ends without peace, but with direction. The ranch stands, not because it is untouchable, but because it has adapted. The legacy of Yellowstone is no longer just about strength, it is about endurance, sacrifice, and the understanding that the land always remembers. This is where the Yellowstone story truly becomes what we know. Because from this moment forward, the Duttons don't just defend the ranch. They become prisoners of it. As 1944 draws to a close, the Yellowstone ranch stands quieter than it ever has before. Not peaceful, just still, like land catching its breath after a long, violent storm. Too many names have been carved into its soil, too many sacrifices made for it to ever feel innocent again. This is the moment when Yellowstone stops being a family home and becomes a dynasty. Something larger than any one man, and far more dangerous to carry. John Dutton too now holds the weight of the ranch fully on his shoulders. There is no ceremony, no formal passing of power. Authority at Yellowstone is never given, it is taken, earned through loss. John understands that leadership here is not about winning battles, but about surviving consequences. Every enemy defeated creates another watching from the shadows. Every compromise made weakens something else. This is the balance he must learn to live with. Spencer fades into the background, but his presence never truly leaves. His lessons are carved into the ranch itself, in the rules, the discipline, and the unspoken understanding that hesitation invites destruction. Spencer does not need to die for his era to end. His legacy lives on through the choices John makes, and the ones he refuses to make. The old world does not disappear. It hardens into tradition. Elizabeth's son becomes the reminder of what Yellowstone destroys as much as what it protects. He remains part of the ranch, but never fully part of its future. His grief never finds justice, only purpose twisted by resentment. In him, we see the cost of loyalty without belonging. Yellowstone keeps him close, but never lets him forget what it took from him. This quiet tragedy lingers, unresolved, echoing through the generations to come. The Rainwaters continue their fight, not as enemies, but not as allies either. Their presence marks the beginning of a long conflict that will stretch far beyond 1944. Land claims, broken treaties, and buried truths begin to surface. John Dutton too understands that this conflict cannot be erased, only managed. And this understanding becomes one of the defining traits of his leadership. Power is no longer about domination. It is about control, patience, and knowing when not to strike. By the end of 1944, the rules of Yellowstone are set. The ranch will survive, but only by consuming those who love it most. Family will always come second to land. Mercy will always be mistaken for weakness. And every generation will be forced to choose between becoming monsters or losing everything. This is where the Yellowstone story locks into place. Not with hope, not with justice, but with certainty. Because from this point on, the Duttons are no longer fighting to build Yellowstone. They are fighting to keep it from destroying them,